Podcasting continues to expand its influence as today we cover a podcast-adapted show, Amazon's brand new psychological thriller Homecoming starring Julia Roberts. We have plenty of thoughts as every week, guys, and we're going to get into it right after this.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Place where I belong.
You can guess who recommended this song.
Daughtry fans in the crowd, yes? No?
I do know this song and like it a lot.
Really?
Yes. Z104, shout out to that station that uses this.
I would not have taken you as a Daughtry fan, D'Angelo.
I didn't say I was a Daughtry fan. I said I like this song.
Fair enough. Well, what we're here to talk about is whether or not we liked this show, which, of course, guys, is Homecoming, Amazon's brand new show, as I mentioned, starring Julia Roberts and some other big names. It's executive produced by Sam Esmail, who you know from Mr. Robot. A lot of interesting names both behind the camera and in front of the camera here. Before we dive in, though, guys, I want to let you know first that this is a TV pilot review show. This is not an after show for Homecoming. I do not know whether or not we are covering the show, but Brianna Phipps in the booth probably would, our producer.
We will be covering the show. Our panelists are binging it right now.
Great.
We should maybe start it by next week.
It feels like a show we should be covering, so I'm glad that we are. And we will be giving you our opinions today. The we that I'm talking about is made up of me, Jeff Graham.
Hi guys, Linda Edgeworth here.
And I'm D'Angelo Friday, and I missed you guys. I'm glad to be back.
Welcome
Yes,
back.
we missed you last week. We talked all about Teen Witches
Yes.
and what it was
Right
like
up
doing
my
your
alley,
thoughts. But okay, so today we're talking about Amazon's Homecoming. As I mentioned, this is actually adapted from a scripted podcast from a network I really like. I'm a big fan of Gimlet Media, so we can talk about that connection in a little bit.
I had no idea it was it's a huge hit podcast. I had no idea.
From a huge hit network that I really like. But before we talk about any of that, there's a trailer, and it sets the tone for the show. So just quickly before we watch the trailer, this show stars Julia Roberts as a counselor who's dealing with PTSD-affected veterans, and she's trying to reintegrate them into society. And there's a lot of other stuff. And that's about all we learned in the first episode. So let's check out this trailer.
What happened to the fish?
I got rid of them. Just figured it was for the best. I couldn't get into it.
You were employed at the Homecoming Transitional Support Center?
How do you feel? Happy.
What we're seeking here is information.
What were your duties there?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I know why I'm here. I want to be in compliance with all this.
Compliance. Have you ever forgotten something? Something big?
You think it's just a place where they want to help us out?
We're here to help them.
I want to be in compliance with all this.
What were your duties there? Helping those guys?
We're here to help them.
We can leave whenever we want.
How do you know?
I want to be in compliance with all this. This is about your future.
We're here to help them.
You should think very carefully. I want to be in compliance with all this. I can take care of them if you want.
Look, we're here to help them.
What did she know?
You're worried?
Aren't you?
Yes, I am.
That was a really good trailer.
Trailer was really good.
That just pulled me in. I'm not gonna lie. I like
So
that.
Linda, I heard Linda just say, trailer was really good, and then sigh.
Because it, okay, so
Let's get into it. Linda, what did you think of the show? Let's start with you.
I love the show, but I have a lot of questions about the pilot.
Agreed. But you liked it.
I love the show.
Yeah, me too. D'Angelo.
Oh yeah, this show has all the formulas of things I like. Slow pull, give me questions, give me little answers, and just pull me along slowly. So I love this stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's clearly like kind of a mystery show. Like it's a seemingly straightforward show with a very clear sinister underbelly. And I have to agree with you guys that normally with shows like this, I get a little frustrated, but I think they were giving us enough for me to be like, okay, this is enough for me to like understand enough. I'm using the word enough a lot. But to keep watching, you know, I just hate when I'm watching something that's so esoteric. I don't trust the writers.
Yeah.
And there was enough here for me to be like, I think I'm in good hands to keep watching this show.
Yeah, I agree, and it's 30 minutes, which is a plus. And I think even harder for them to make a good pilot when it's a 30-minute mystery show. So you have to give me enough for it to be interesting, but enough for me to want to be like, oh, let me check out the next episode.
But did you get that it was a mystery from the pilot?
Yeah, because of the future timeline.
It's slightly future timeline that Linda has a problem.
Okay.
Real quick, guys, just so you know, the further into this show we go, the more spoilers you're gonna get. Even that little moment I gave probably was a bit of a spoiler, so I have to apologize. We're going to do our best to give you our overall general thoughts, which we're doing now. But at a certain point, we will cue a spoiler alert, and that's when we'll really be talking about the pilot. So if any of you guys have seen it and want to hear our thoughts, you should tune in for that.
I'm curious, Linda, as to why you are like is it annoyed or frustrated? Like, what is it about this show that you didn't like? Because I feel like this show meets a lot of the formulas we've seen from like Counterpart and all these other shows that like bring questions forward.
I mean, I liked it. I don't know. I think that maybe this is a spoiler, but I'll say this. I love the imagery and I love the way it was filmed. And you could tell by the two separate ways that it was filmed that they were different times. But the time that they say it is doesn't make sense to me at all.
Okay.
We'll get into that question when we get further into the show.
Okay.
I did love the direction. It was so beautifully shot. And even where I think it might have been falling a bit short in terms of writing, the performances in the direction were so top-notch. I mean, Amazon really puts out these really elegantly filmed shows. In particular, there's one very long tracking shot where we're following Julia Roberts' character through the entire building.
Yeah, it's great.
And it was just so well. I mean, like, I was like, to direct and choreograph this scene with all the extras and even the audio, to be pulling in and out of her to make all that work as beautifully as it did was very impressive. I was also so happy to find out it was a half hour.
Me too.
Oh, we all were. I was just like, yes.
That's the point we're getting to. If you're going to produce an hour-long show, you're kind of facing a burden.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm on a couple of other shows that are consistently an hour and 15, hour and 20, hour and 30. And it's like watching a movie every single day.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder. And like, I'm so glad that TV's exploring this like 30-minute drama space because I think it's totally valid. And like, this felt like the right amount of time for an episode of television. And it shows you that the writers aren't going to necessarily overextend themselves, you know, by instead of producing 10 hour-long episodes, we have 10 half-hour-long episodes. Those are our overall thoughts. I'm a play based on this pilot. I don't think it's a perfect pilot, but I think everything's working well enough that I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm a play as well. I almost played ahead because I had so many questions.
Yes, classic Linda.
But I didn't.
Good for you.
I
proud
stayed.
of you. We encouraged her via group message to say no. Double play for me too. I know we're going to talk about Julia Roberts' performance, but also the Stephen James. I've actually seen him in a couple things.
Yeah, he's kind of blowing up.
Yeah, he's really talented. So I think we're going to see a lot from him this season.
I like him a lot, and I think he's really good in this show.
And I like Jeremy Allen White from Shameless. Love him.
Is he playing her?
He's playing, the character's name is Schreier.
Okay.
And
is that the investigator?
Oh, yeah.
No, he's like another PTSD.
Oh, okay.
Just so when we said play, guys, I should have specified that's our recommendation for you to watch. So what we do is we give you whether or not we would pass or play on the show personally and whether or not you should pass or play on the show as an audience. It sounds like all of us not only will be watching this show, but recommending people watch the show. We liked this show. Critics are liking this show.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to be... It's just so many goddamn good shows. Sorry. It's just so many shows. Like, it's almost disgusting how many good shows it is. And I'm just kind of like... I was annoyed after a while. We'll get into that. But I was just annoyed. I was like, God, another good
one.
show?
I know.
Crap.
Another one.
I know, but this is like 10 episodes, 30 minutes.
Exactly.
You can binge this in 2 days and be done.
No.
If this were an hour-long show, though, I wouldn't be playing. Right. That's why I'm like, how smart to make a half-hour show because, like, 5 hours of television is way less than 10.
Exactly.
You know?
It's like they knew they were only going to make a slightly above average show.
You think it's only slightly above?
No, I'm just playing.
No, it's all good. That's just an interesting take. I was just curious.
What do you... go ahead.
No, please.
What are your guys' take on... Are we talking about performances yet?
Let's save it. We're going to wait to talk about performances until we talk about development a little bit, and I'll let you start when we get to that point, Linda. Just so you guys know, interestingly, we always talk about development. This pilot was based on a podcast. So there's a podcast network I really like called Gimlet Media. Some of their biggest shows are a show called Startup, ABC released a show called Alex Inc. that was actually based on that podcast. But that's not a scripted podcast. It was a sort of reality document podcast. They have a show called Reply All that's really popular. The Nod. They're an NPR offshoot that's grown very large. I listened to a ton of Gimlet shows, and unfortunately I hadn't listened to this podcast. I kind of wish I had, because it would have made a really interesting perspective on the panel, but I'm going to go back and listen to it now. The original creators of that podcast created this pilot as well. That's Chad Hamilton and Eli Horowitz. But Sam Esmail is also executive producing this show. He is the creator and brain behind Mr. Robot. Yeah. Do you guys watch that show?
Yep. I've stopped.
You watched season 1?
Yes.
Do you get some of the same vibes of Mr. Robot from this? Okay. Yeah. What do you think are some of the similarities for fans who might like Mr. Robot?
I think that the way it's shot is similar, and I feel like that slow motion, for lack of a better way to describe it, like what you said, that slow pull. Like you don't really get the whole story until you continue on with it, but it draws you in at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's really well said. And it was actually in a bidding war, and Universal Cable Productions snatched it up. I think Amazon feels like a good place for this to land. It seems like a bingey kind of show. So, okay, at this point, we are going to get into spoilers.
That was hard.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
And Linda, we can let you start.
Okay, so how is this April 2018? Like how? In the imagery, it's not April 2018. I was telling D'Angelo earlier, because it was really bothering me, that the wood paneling with the sunken in fish and Julia Roberts' outfit, and then so she was 2018, and then it was 4 years later.
Yeah.
So you don't think the production design is suggesting modernity? Like, you're not getting the sense that it's a contemporary show?
Did you get it was 2018?
Yeah.
You did?
Well, I guess the shoe store kind of looked Art Deco a little bit.
You felt like it was
the fake shoe store in the back?
Yes.
You felt like it. Okay, I got you. So, I mean, it felt like present day to me, but I also got the notion that they wanted us to feel like things were a little bit out of touch.
All of it was out of touch.
But I think that was intentional.
Okay, if that was the case, then great job.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Linda. I think I agree with D'Angelo, because like when they would walk outside of the office building, it felt very much like a contemporary moment, but inside it was sort of this insular, almost utopia of like weirdness.
Even Go ahead. Well, just the conversation Julia Roberts had with the guy who seems to be in charge, he was all over the place, but they talked about the design of the location. He's like, I was going for like male. What was the line he said? He was like, I'm going for, he was talking about the design of the location, and he was just saying something along the lines of, I'm going for like energetic male, or I can't paraphrase it correctly, but I feel like they even talked about how, I think that was their way of saying, we know this looks a little weird.
It's a little anachronistic, but yeah.
I don't know do you remember that moment? Or you don't feel like that? Like
I do. I just feel like it was very 70s vibe to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Even when they were delivering the furniture to all the rooms, and the lead, Walter Cruz, pulled his lamp.
Yeah, you're right.
And then Julia Roberts is taping the interview, and she doesn't know how to use it. Like, it was a tape recorder.
Yeah.
In 2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was confusing to me.
I think that's kind of intentional, because I see what you're saying now, but I think maybe it's as a way to manipulate the viewer to recognize that this is a completely sealed off, kind of hermetic world. I think of Maniac, which, did we cover the pilot to that on this show? I don't think we did. Have you guys seen Maniac at all? So that's a similar show. I only watched like the first 4 episodes, but it's similar in that it's this like testing facility kind of thing, and I think maybe the production design's deliberately supposed to sort of throw us off.
Okay.
It also gives me we'll get into comparisons, but it actually has a lot of comparisons to Counterpart from almost everything, but also just like how things feel. And Counterpart was supposed to be like modern day too. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the performances. Of course, Julia Roberts is the real draw here. You can tell Amazon is leaning into that A-list. She doesn't really do TV, so I wish I had an exact stat on this, but is this her first small screen appearance?
I feel like I read that that's the case.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I know Meryl just came to television for Big Little Lies, and it's that time where finally film actors are like, well, all the good work's over here.
There's the money.
She is great.
Yeah, she's great.
I mean, she's always good, but it's so nice to have her back.
Yeah.
I forgot how much I haven't seen her in a while, and I was like, oh, I love Julia Roberts.
That's a great point. I remember like looking at this being like, man, I don't think I've seen her around much. And I was like, so this kind of feels fresh almost.
She was holding out for film and being like, okay, I guess I'll do it.
Get the money.
I'm going to TV.
Get that bag, girl. Get that bag.
One thing I like is I'm so used to like the buoyant.
Sorry to chime in, but
please.
Up her credits, it looks like she was in one episode of Law and Order. She did a few episodes of Murphy Brown. But from what I can tell, she's never had her own TV show. Like she's done TV show appearances, but it's like one-offs or a couple guest appearances, and never like had a TV show of her own.
Cool.
Get that bag, girl. Get that bag.
Get that bag. And one thing I like, and Bree, thank you for that. That was very helpful. One thing, I'm used to big smiley Julia Roberts, where it takes up her full face, and then this, she's kind of this stressed out. I'm used to sort of her being in the position of power.
Yeah.
And in this, she's kind of subservient and lost, which is really nice to see. We don't usually get that from her.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
She's great.
But that's why she's, genius actor.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just really nice to have her back. She's doing a good job. And I know her production company also helped sort of make this happen. So good choice. Good instincts on her part. Really nice to see Bobby Cannavale. Are you guys fans of him? He plays the sort of alpha.
Yeah.
He is on the phone with her.
Yeah.
He's gonna play that character where I already felt it. I just felt, I'm not gonna like you, and I'm not supposed to.
Yes. I like him a lot. I liked him in Boardwalk Empire, and I actually ended up covering Vinyl here at the network. I don't know if you guys watched that show.
Vinyl.
I know it got canceled too soon.
When they canceled it.
But he played Richie Finestra on that show, who is the lead, and I think he's always good.
Yeah.
He's always good, and I really liked him in this.
He also played Will's boyfriend in Will and Grace in the original series, and he did a great job in there, and was a very different character for him. So he's a great actor.
Very good. He's I think married to Rose Byrne too. Power couple.
There you go.
Yeah, he's gonna be great. Were you about to say something, Linda?
I just feel like he brings a certain energy to whatever he whatever he films, and it's unique.
Yes, definitely. Speaking of that, and let's talk about Stephen James before we move on. He's kind of like on the edge of being an A-lister, don't you think so?
Yeah.
Like he's going to be in Barry Jenkins' new film If Beale Street Could Talk, which is Barry Jenkins' follow-up to Moonlight. Didn't you cover Shots Fired here, Dee?
Yeah, that's where that was my first exposure to him, even though I know he did some movies before that. But he's really talented. I'm a big fan. I also like the roles that he's taking, the type of roles that he's taking.
Yeah.
Seems very strategic in what he's doing.
For sure. He was in Selma, which is Ava DuVernay's first film, Shots Fired, and then and then Barry Jenkins, If Beale Street Could Talk. If like 3 of his 5 films he's appeared in are like Oscar buzzy films, he's got a good manager.
Yeah.
Big facts.
But I'm not surprised because he's very good.
He's so good.
I don't even know what it is about his performance in this show besides he's just pretty charismatic. Like I think sometimes there are those actors who just have something.
Yeah.
And to me that's him. I just like watching him. I don't know, any thoughts on Stephen James from you guys?
You touched on it. Yeah. I try to compare him to who's the guy who did The Mayor and God?
Brendan Michael Hall?
Yeah.
God Is My Friend or whatever.
God Friended Me.
God Friended Me, yeah. Because he's also equally charismatic, obviously African-American too. And but for some reason they affect me differently. And and I think it has like what you said, the type of roles they've taken, his manager. So interesting.
It's a really
I read an article
point.
that exactly what you said. He's on the edge of being an A-list celebrity, and we're not going to remember when he was not.
Wow.
Like, that's how good people are saying he is.
The next Will Smith?
Something like that.
So, any other performances that you guys really want to touch on?
No, but I love Jeremy Allen White. Just want to throw that in there. And I'm excited that Sissy Spacek is in this as well. And Dermot Mulroney. I saw he played...
There's a lot of people in this. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I like Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
And I was reading a review, he's kind of playing against type here, which will be nice. He plays a lot of like leading men, and it would be nice to see him do something else.
Yeah.
So, we talked about Bobby Cannavale and Julia Roberts, and we touched on it, but they have this really elegantly shot sort of tracking phone conversation.
Yeah.
What I loved about that scene was I didn't really gather much from that besides just like atmosphere and questions.
Yeah.
And it was like a 6-minute conversation.
Yeah.
But because of the way it was performed, and you talked specifically about Sam Esmail's ability to just pull you in with the way things are being given.
Yeah.
That was that scene for me.
Yeah. It was a great scene.
We're getting, and I like that we're getting it from Julia Roberts' character's perspective.
Yes.
It's like I mean, we're getting both sides of her, where now she's obviously in denial towards things, but at that moment she was just like, it seems like very innocent in her desire to help. So like, I think getting it from that perspective is going to be like interesting.
She's kind of RN, I feel.
Yeah.
She's like this earnest, like she doesn't know what's going on, maybe. But yeah, I think in the hands of the wrong director or actors, I would have been annoyed by that scene. Like, these two people are just saying things I don't understand. They're just using big corporate words, and I'm not getting any information.
Yeah.
But because of the way it was orchestrated and acted, I was like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So props to the whole package.
Yeah. Agreed. And to do that in a 30-minute show, it's risky. So
yeah.
Good job, director. Good job, writers.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I wrote this down. I took a note where I guess Sam is known to shoot overhead. And he likes to create that feeling like rats in a maze.
Ooh.
And I definitely got that feeling when we were watching Julia Roberts go down the stairs. Like, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I was fascinated that we were trapped in this weird 3-dimensional place that even the rooms were like, I don't know, like offices.
Yeah.
But they were bedrooms. And then everyone
people
was
were running around.
Yeah, and everyone was in uniform, but not.
Yeah.
So
wow.
fascinating.
I'm glad you brought that up, because if you think about it narratively, these soldiers are kind of like rats under the hands of a different scientist. And what a subtle way for us to receive that without being told that.
Yeah.
Even the way, like there was a couple shots where we were tracking overhead and seeing it like it was a set.
Yeah.
It's those details that I think are elevating this show compared to some of its contemporaries.
Yeah.
There's so little information that we actually got in this show that I don't know if I have much more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we were really given.
Yeah.
For real.
A lot of questions. Enough questions to be intrigued to watch the next episode. I think that was their goal. They accomplished it.
Yep.
So we were talking about some other shows to compare it to. D'Angelo, you mentioned Counterpart.
Psycho, they said. Vertigo, they said.
Okay, kind of Hitchcockian.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They actually said that this is one of the few shows that you can actually say it's a throwback to Hitchcockian thrillers.
There you go. You got it.
That's it.
You got it. That was good.
And then because of the characters, the secrets, and the lies.
Yeah.
The only, I guess, downfall from what I've read, and because we've only seen the pilot, I don't know this to be true, is that there might be some pacing issues, even though it's only 30 minutes long.
Yeah, the pilot was 6 30-minute or the podcast rather was 6 30-minute episodes.
And that's what they said this should be.
Yeah.
Interesting. So they might have. I wonder if they took liberties.
We've talked about this, where TV feels so like stuck to produce these 10-episode seasons, 13-episode seasons.
Gotta pay the bills, so maybe I could play a role.
I want because TV's becoming so radically flexible. I hate that contracts and guilds and creators still feel the need to follow these templates.
Yeah,
this show probably would have been better if it were 6 30-minute episodes.
That's what I've been reading.
But what can you do?
What can you do? Other lists, add to the list. Men in High Castle, and a little bit, just because, especially after watching that trailer, if they do go in that tone, like a little bit of Castle Rock from Hulu.
Oh,
just
yeah.
Because, like, the mystery, but that one was more sci-fi.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And definitely Mr. Robot, because it's the same team. So those are some great references.
Love it.
I'm giving this pilot a 4.2, actually 4.3 out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
4.3 out of 5. Okay. I think it was shot beautifully. Love the actors. So I'm going to go 4.5.
Great.
All right. Just 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5? Nice.
That's high.
Yeah, it's high.
And we're not easy to impress, guys.
Yeah.
Critics agree. This currently has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
There you go.
So it's interesting, though. Amazon, I was reading the Amazon reviews of people who have binged the whole season. A little mixed. It's got 3.5 out of 5 stars right now. I think 56% of people gave it a 5-star rating, but there was about 20% of people who said this show's too boring, not enough happens.
I can see that happening, though. That could happen.
It could happen. So
you got to know when to give us some answers, and you got to pace it well. If the pacing is an issue, that might mean they didn't answer questions when they needed to.
Right.
Which it could happen because it's only been, you said they're drawn out 4 extra episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But if you're curious and you're watching this show, we will, in fact, be having an AfterBuzz TV after show for Homecoming. So make sure to check that out. I'll continue to watch it. And if you want to connect with me to discuss the show, you can do that at Jeffrey C. Graham. Before Linda and D'Angelo see themselves out, I want to let you know that we will be covering a YouTube show next week.
Yes.
We're on YouTube now. It is called Origin.
Yes.
And it apparently has Lost vibes.
Ooh.
So I'm looking forward to watching it, and hopefully you will too. You can check out our coverage for that at 5 p.m. Pacific this next Wednesday and every Wednesday.
That's right.
I already said my name.
I'm Linda Antwi. You can see me on social media or follow me on social media or reach out to me on social media at Linda is so girly.
And I'm D'Angelo. You can hit me up on Twitter at D'Angelo TV or on Instagram at D'Angelo.
Before we wrap out, I have to ask you, Linda, you were just covering Mayans.
Oh my gosh, so good.
It was good?
It was beyond good. It was great.
Good. Okay, good to know.
It was great. We had great guests. We had Curtis Cook on for our finale, and that finale did like almost a crossover with Sons of Anarchy. So if you love Sons, you definitely need to check out our after show.
Good, and you just wrapped that, and Linda's a wonderful host, so go check her out on that.
Yes.
And until next time, guys, we'll see you next week to cover Origins, and throughout the week here at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you for tuning in.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.